Okay, this is going to take a while. The very first word is but of the sentence. It's actually coming from a previous sentence, like the conjunction but. So if you read the sentence before in the book, you'll see why there's a but. So since our sentence is so big, I'm actually using IP, which I'm not going to explain. And then you have S for the first bit of the sentence. Then you have the NP. An interleague baseball victory. Then you have the verb phrase. Then you have the auxiliary, which is plus past because it's in the past. Then you have the verb have, which is in the third person singular. Remember that it's in the past, so it's going to be had. Come. Then you have the participle ed, even though come is an irregular participle. So that's just how it's going to be. Then, let's see, you have a prepositional phrase, and you have two. You have a noun phrase because every prepositional phrase is going to have a noun phrase as part of it. This noun phrase happens to be a sentence, which is very, very common in grammar. So you see the noun phrase, and then the subject is null. That's the symbol for null. Then you have your verb phrase, and then the auxiliary phrase is an infinitive, so there you go. Take. Then you have a particle. Lots of verbs have these, like jump up, calm down, things like that. So you have the particle on. It's actually not a preposition because something that I'll explain in a sec. Then you go over here. Then you have the noun phrase. Then you have the adjectival phrase, and then you have an intensifier only because it's actually an adverb, but adverbs fit under adjectival phrases, which you don't want me to explain probably. Then you have a noun phrase with the determiner a. Then you have another adjectival phrase. Then you have an intensifier shade because it's talking about a degree of the lessness. So here you have your adjective less. Then you have significance. And here's what you can do. You can say take only a shade less significance on, and it sounds a little bit weird, but you can do it. Take only a shade less significance on, and that's why it connects to the verb, because you can move the particle in English to the end of the following noun phrase, and that's totally cool. So then we have the word than, and it's a conjunction. It actually makes this phrase and this phrase equal. So it's either this or that with the conjunction than. So here you have a noun phrase, the determiner a, then you have your adjectival phrase a, well, you know, adjective, top, then you have the noun grade. So top grade, prepositional phrase, and there's your preposition, then you have your noun phrase with the noun Talmud. Okay? Now here's something called a transformation. So if we go up to this verb phrase right here, the verb phrase from the top of the sentence where it's had come, you'll notice that there is a blue line that I'm putting all the way down here. We'll get to accent in a sec. So you have your prepositional phrase, and you have to the students with your determiner and students with noun. Then you have a prepositional phrase with your preposition of, noun phrase with the noun most, which a lot of people don't realize that that's a noun, but it totally is because of this thing right here. You have a noun phrase, and it can only be part of a prepositional phrase if it's a noun phrase, and you can just say of most. But we like to say of what that is, so we say a preposition with your of, then yet again another noun phrase. So we have a prepositional phrase with a noun phrase with a prepositional phrase with a noun phrase. This is called recursion because in English, one of the, well, in most languages, if not all, one of the important rules of syntax, which makes it an infinite property of language, is you can keep building things down. So here we have prepositional phrase, noun phrase, prepositional phrase, noun phrase, prepositional phrase, noun phrase, and then we stop here. We could have kept going, and I'll show you how in a sec. So you have noun phrase with the determiner the, then you have your adjective phrase with the adjective parochial, schools. We could have built another prepositional phrase off of this and said of the West End or whatever it was, and we could have said of the West End in the city of New York. See how you can keep going? Recursion, recursion, recursion. Okay, now this little puppy right here is circled, and there's an X in, which is syntactical slang for transformation. Now if we follow this all the way to the top of the sentence, what we did was we fronted this prepositional phrase. In other words, we moved it to the front. And so the sentence actually reads, but, sorry about that, to the students of most of the parochial schools, then you go up here, and interleague baseball victory. Now what this means is that whole thing, to the students of most of the parochial schools, is a constituent. It's its own little thing all by itself, and you can only front prepositional phrases if they're all by themselves. I couldn't have said but of, and then just left it, or but of the, and interleague baseball victory. It has to be the whole thing, okay? So we have that transformation, which is all well and good, but then we still have some more of the sentence, and so we build off of this verb phrase. We have another prepositional phrase with for. We have a noun phrase, which is actually another sentence. Then you have the pronoun it, which is the baseball victory, from all the way over here, because it was just that important. So baseball victory, then you have, it's in the past, then it's a copulative verb, which is be, so it's in the third person singular, right there. Then you have a noun phrase off of that, an unquestionable mark. So it is equal to mark. Then off of the noun phrase, you have this prepositional phrase right here. So of one's Americanism. Now this is called apostrophe. It's a possessive phrase. So you have the noun phrase. The possessive is actually the head of the phrase, but it comes at the very end, the right. So I could have said a whole long phrase and put the possessive at the end. Like I could have said the Queen of England's cat, even though it's the Queen's cat, you say the Queen of England's cat, because off of a noun phrase you can build what? A prepositional phrase. And that would have been why that works like that, okay? So you have that. Now here's the interesting thing. Come all the way up here, and part of the reason why I have an IP is because this is going back to a sentence that hasn't been listed. We have the conjunction but. We also have the conjunction and. So we have two sentences working together. So we come all the way down here and we have a new sentence. Now part of the reason why we know that they are equal sentences is because if you come up here, you have the past participle have third person singular. You come down here, you have the plus past, you have the past participle, and you have the third person singular. In other words, they're equal. Another way that you can know is and. So it makes these two sentences equal. So we have the noun phrase, which of course happens to be another sentence. So off of the sentence we have to have our noun phrase, and there is no subject. Why? Because the verb phrase is actually in the infinitive. So we have be, but we know that the infinitive in English carries the word to. So we have the adjective right here from the adjectival phrase. You have your noun phrase, a loyal American. Okay? So now that we go back to our verb phrase that has the plus past, have, third person singular, because anytime you have a sentence built like this, it means that it's going to be the third person singular. It automatically clicks that. So here we have it, showing it right here how it works. Then you have an adjectival phrase, and you have your intensifier increasingly because the importance is increasing. So this is going up a degree. Then you have your prepositional phrase, to us. Then off of this you have another prepositional phrase that's going to tell you time. Prepositional phrase, during these last years. So you have your adjectival phrase. These is a determiner because it tells you which years. You have your prepositional phrase, of the war. So you ready? But to the students of most of the parochial schools, an interleague baseball victory had come to take on only a shade less significance than a top grade in Talmud. For it was an unquestionable mark of one's Americanism and was counted a loyal American. had become, well, and to be, because it's infinitive, and to be counted a loyal American had become increasingly important to us during these last years of war.